Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We're here talking about the NFL season. The Hall of Fame game technically kicks off next week. So the preseason starts next week. NFL season is still about a month away. Actually, 5 weeks really from starting, and 5 weeks from today. To be in fact, kicks off in Kansas City in 5 weeks from today. So we're starting this a little bit earlier than we did last year because everything changes when you get to preseason and people get injured and people get cut. And so if we could just couch everything that we're doing, everything that happens in the preview before all of that happens, I think it's a little easier. So just some quick background information. I kind of shared this last year, but Yancey wasn't here. And so Yancey, I'm not sure how much you know of this background information. I started writing NFL previews 10 years ago, almost 11 years ago, actually. Hey, there's Dustin. We're not talking about that team today, but you can wear that all you want. So,
I'll wear it every week. We're talking football.
He ain't gonna wash it though.
So, Dustin, I was just giving background information to Yancey in particular about the NFL preview evolution that I've gone through, and really we've gone through. Dustin and I actually did the first one together, just him and I, in 2014. So it's been this is year number 10 that in a row that we've done NFL previews. That very first year was just, I think it was, I don't know, 100 words per team. And so it was really short. That's evolved to the point where this preview that we're going to show everyone is 263 pages. So it's evolved quite a bit. We've done a lot of work on it. I started work on this preview. It's been about 2 months now that I started working on it, and we filled some questions out that we're going to show you guys, questions and answers. So we're going to jump right in and talk first of all about the NFC North. We're doing the exact opposite order that we did last year, starting with the NFC North and finishing with AFC North.
So, Scott, I would argue that you started a preview, in the late 90s, early 2000s when you took pictures out of Sports Illustrated and every other magazine of every football thing you could find and put it all around your room everywhere. You had dozens and dozens of pictures all in your room of every team, every player that they had a picture of in a magazine.
That's true. I did start that then. That was Magazine Central before the internet really was huge, cutting pictures out of magazines and taping it onto the wall. I'm sure
rumors are that Scott's first birthday cake had the stat line of the Super Bowl on it, actually. I don't know if that's true. It's just a rumor. But actually, I'm starting it now.
In Scouts, my first Pinewood Derby car was the Super Bowl between the Tennessee Titans and the St. Louis Rams. The number of the car was the score of that Super Bowl. So
look at that. How could I guess that without knowing you, bro?
Yeah.
I know you too good.
Yeah. Okay. So do you all see my screen here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are starting with the Chicago Bears. They finished 7-10 last year, which was good for last in their division. You can look at their stats, and nothing was really that great until you get defense. They allowed 86 rushing yards per game. They also forced 1.6 turnovers, which was fifth best, and 1.3 interceptions, which was best in the NFL. Now we get to their players. We start obviously with a number 1 overall pick in this year's draft, Caleb Williams out of USC. Say what you want about him, and we really have as a group. He comes with a really dangerous ego and a hero ball mentality, but regardless of that, he's one of the best quarterback prospects to come out of the draft in history. He never threw an interception on 3rd or 4th down, ever. And that is pretty impressive. Obviously, that may change in the NFL, but he has a lot of good stuff to start with. You can look at the offensive weapons here. Yellow is Pro Bowl. The grayish purple color is All Pro. They brought over Keenan Allen from the Chargers and DeAndre Swift from the Eagles, both of whom were Pro Bowlers or on the All-Pro team last year. That really adds to their offensive weapons to go along with DJ Moore, who was a great player for them last year. You can see 96 catches, 8 touchdowns. They drafted Rome Odunze out of Washington with their other first-round pick that they picked up from the Carolina Panthers last year after trading out of the first pick. Odunze led the country last year with 1,640 receiving yards. He perhaps makes this receiving core the best trio in the NFL, along with tight end Cole Kmet. The offensive line, Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright, are both two tackles, both of them young. They were both first-round picks in consecutive years. Both look like they're going to do pretty good. Tevin Jenkins at left guard is probably the best player on this line. They tried to upgrade at the center position by bringing over Coleman Shelton from the Rams. Nate Davis was supposed to be a great upgrade, but he couldn't stay healthy last year. Defensive line. Montez Sweat came over at the trade deadline last year, proceeded to go to the Pro Bowl. He had 6 sacks, and the Bears went from near the bottom of the league to near the top of the league in pressures when he came over. So he's a big addition that we're going to see a full offseason of. DeMarcus Walker is a great run defender. Andrew Billings plugs the line well on the run as well. Gervon Dexter was a draft pick last year, who more is expected of. At linebackers, these two guys came over last year. Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards both had over 100 tackles last year, and they combined for 7 interceptions between the two of them. So they're very good in coverage, but they both need to work on being able to rush the passer a little bit better. At cornerback, Jalen Johnson has really become one of the top 5 cornerbacks in the NFL. Last year, he had 4 picks. He is a leader on this defense, a leader on this team. The other side is Kyler Gordon. They have a good safety in Jaquan Brisker, who has really flourished as a second-year player, now in his 3rd year. 105 tackles last year. He's going to be great. Kevin Byard is a veteran addition at safety from the Eagles. He's going to be really important for the leadership as well. And Tyreek Stevenson was the nickel back. He had 4 interceptions last year. He looks like he's going to be someone to be there for a while. Looking at offensive depth, a couple of things to point out. Dante Pettis was injured all of last year, was sorely missed as a return specialist. They brought over Gerald Everett to help Cole Kmet in the tight end situation, especially as a receiving threat. Kirana Magagie was the 3rd-round pick from Yale. He's massive. He has positional versatility. They brought over Ryan Bates as well to help him determine who's going to play at center. A couple of other offensive line additions. On the defensive line, Austin Booker was their 5th-round pick out of Kansas. He had 8 sacks last year, so he could be someone that steps into that rotation. They have several other holdovers at the defensive line position, in addition to some good linebackers. Jack Sanborn had 65 tackles last year at outside linebacker. A lot of corner and safety depth, but not very experienced until you get to the safeties. Both Jonathan Owens and Tarvarius Moore were brought over from the Packers, where they played safety last year. Jonathan Owens is actually best known for being Simone Biles' husband, if you didn't know that. Moore has been great in his career, mainly with the 49ers, but last year was kind of a lost season with Green Bay. Cairo Santos was excellent. You look at those numbers, he missed 3 field goals and 2 extra points all of last year, so he's very consistent. Torrey Taylor was taken in the 4th round. You don't see a lot of punters taken before the 6th round, but he was the Ray Guy Award winner for Iowa, meaning he was the best punter in the country. In addition, he set a college football record by averaging 48.2 yards per punt, so he might be the best punter ever in college football, now playing for the Bears. Finally, their coaching staff, Matt Eberflus is in his 3rd season. Doesn't have a good overall record, obviously, 10-24. He changed over his coordinators, bringing over Shane Waldron from the Seahawks to be the new offensive coordinator, and Eric Washington from the Bills to be the new defensive coordinator. So that's in hopes that he will get a much better season this year. Let's stop sharing this one and share a different one. So we're doing this a little bit different this year. We're showing the questions that we worked hard on. We're going to start with Cody. Cody, what we want you to do is give a brief analysis of this team, what you think, and then ask the question leading up to the question, however you want to do that.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, so my analysis for this team is Chicago Bears, they have – prior to now, they have basically had everything but a quarterback. And more so even now, they've done a lot of work during the offseason, very impressive work. I'm very impressed with what they've done. And they have a lot of good talent brought in on both offensive and defensive side. They're already really good defensively, and they brought in more. And then offensively, it doesn't even look like the same Chicago Bears. It really doesn't. And now, as we've already said, we don't know. We don't know what to expect from Caleb Williams, other than he's probably, as you said, Scott, one of the greatest prospects to come in. Whether he maximizes that on that or not is to be seen. So, with that being said, my question that I was coming up with is that with names such as Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, and then Gerald Everett, we can also say Cole Kmet. What should be expected from Rome Odunze specifically? That's kind of where my question's going to.
And then Pam was the one that answered that. We have 2 people here that contributed who are not on our podcast. Cody's wife Pam and our dad and Yancey's adopted dad, if you could say it that way. And Pam said that Rome Odunze's impact will be similar to Jackson Smith and Jigba from the Seahawks. Not the main guy, but he's going to be a reliable piece, and that's probably accurate, right, Cody?
So, I would think so.
Yeah. Okay, Dustin.
What I've said about the Bears, I'll just repeat it real quickly again, which is, yeah, they have a lot of talent, and the big question mark is Williams. And so the biggest thing that his coach needs to be saying every single minute, every single day is, it's not about you. Your job is to get the ball to these other people. That is the entirety of your job. That's what it says on the job description. Absolutely forget any form of hero ball. Do not try to make highlights. Do not try to be on a poster. If you just trust the talent that is on your team, this you can win the division. But you got to worry more about the name on the front of the jersey and not the name on the back. And I honestly don't think Williams is going to be able to do that, and the Bears are going to be in a tailspin.
And so your question here, yeah.
So my question is, how confident do you feel in the offensive line and their ability to put Williams in the best situation for success?
And then I'm going to answer that and then move to my analysis. I wrote that I'm not supremely confident. Two very young tackles that I talked about, still learning the NFL game. Nothing. To be fair, nothing is going to be as bad as it was at USC. His offensive line at USC was downright awful. They didn't give him any time. It's going to be better in the NFL, but so will be the defensive linemen that are going to be across from him. So I can see he's going to panic in the pocket when those blitzes come from big old guys. He's going to put himself in even worse situations. It is going to take some time, but so I think it's a really good spot to lead for my analysis is that Caleb Williams is going to be in some trouble because he obviously he hasn't stepped onto a field yet. He thinks he's the God's greatest gift of football, and I think there's going to be some games where he throws 4 picks and 2 picks and gets sacked 6 times and just overall gets problems running into rookie situations. And we said this before in our draft analysis, but how he adjusts to that. If he says, "Oh shit, like it's time for me to learn how to play this game," then I think he's going to be just fine with the weapons that he has. But if, like Dustin, like you said, if he goes further into himself and says, "Oh, the other guys are screwing up, it's not my fault," then this is going to be a bad season, and he may be a first year bust. So we'll see. Yancey, before we get to you, my dad's question was, can Caleb Williams play anywhere near where he did at USC in this level?
Yeah, I said that I don't see Caleb Williams matching his performance or numbers at USC. However, I do think he makes it through the season, just meaning not necessarily uninjured. He might sit out a game or something. There's stuff I can't predict, but I think he will make it through the season because they don't really have an option 2 that's viable as far as I'm concerned. And so it's not like he's in pressure of being benched unless the Bears come up with an entirely new scheme. My assessment of the team overall, I think I pretty much agree with you guys that if Caleb Williams is protected this season and plays for the Bears and not for Caleb Williams, the Bears have what it takes to find success, but all of that success is hinged on whether or not Caleb Williams responds well to the pressure of the NFL.
Yeah, nice comments, everyone. So I'm going to move over to this one again, and we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions. They had the best season in franchise history last year, 12-5, winning their division for the first time since the 90s, going all the way to the NFC Championship game where they ultimately fell to the 49ers after holding a double-digit lead. They were 5th in points, 2nd in passing yards, number 1 in rushing touchdowns, 27 last year. Jared Goff is quietly one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Over 4,500 passing yards, 30 touchdown passes, just 12 interceptions. Their offensive weapons are as good as any team's. David Montgomery is the bruising running back, had over 1,000 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns. Last year's rookie sensation, Jahmyr Gibbs, added 945 rushing yards, another 10 touchdowns, was also dangerous in the receiving game. Amon-Ra St. Brown had yet another fantastic season, 10 receiving touchdowns. Last year's rookie, Sam Laporta, was one of the best tight ends in the NFL in his first season, another 10 receiving touchdowns. After losing Josh Reynolds in free agency, third-year player Jamison Williams will be expected to have more of an impact this year. Their offensive line is one of the best units in the entire NFL. Penei Sewell at right tackle is one of the best at his position in the league, along with Frank Ragnow at center. They then traded for Kevin Zeitler, the right guard from the Ravens, who went to the Pro Bowl last year. Graham Glasgow moves from right guard to left guard, and Taylor Decker is solid and steady at left tackle. Aiden Hutchinson is about as good as it gets as an edge rusher. With 11.5 sacks last year, led the NFL in pressures. However, there was no pressure anywhere else on this defense. They went out and signed DJ Reader from the Bengals to be the new nose tackle, who should help plug the line for opposing running backs. Ali McNeil looks like he could break out as that fellow pass rusher on the line to help Hutchinson, while John Kaminsky is just serviceable. Linebackers are good, with Alex Anzalone leading the way, 129 tackles. Last year's first-round pick, Jack Campbell, and up-and-coming linebacker Derek Barnes. But pressuring the quarterback is still going to be a question outside of Hutchinson here. Their secondary was one of the worst units in the league. They spent the majority of their time in the offseason on this unit. They love what they have with last year's draft pick Brian Branch, and they're joining him with Carlton Davis, as the number one corner from the Buccaneers, and they drafted Terrion Arnold in the first round out of Alabama to work alongside him. Kirby Joseph also had 4 picks last year, is solid at that safety nickelback hybrid. Offensive depth includes a couple of interesting pieces. Sione Vaki, the running back from Utah, played both defensive back and running back for the Utes. His versatility should be exciting in this creative offense. Hendon Hooker spent all of last year recovering from an ACL tear. He may be the distant future at quarterback. Giovanni Manu and Christian Mahogany are 2 offensive linemen the Lions took in the draft. Manu is the largest player in this draft. He's still very raw coming out of Canada, but has plenty of potential. Mahogany did not allow a sack in 3 seasons at Boston College. Keep your eye on Khalif Raymond, the new kick returner. With the new rules in the NFL this season, he could have a really big impact. Defensive depth includes plenty of veteran additions like Marcus Davenport, who has proved himself in a couple of different spots throughout the league. James Houston had a great rookie season 2 years ago, but was lost for the season in the first game last year. He could be that missing piece to add pressure up front. Nick Robertson, Emmanuel Mosley are 2 other cornerbacks that could help this defense. Speaking of which, Ennis Rakestraw is a second-round pick out of Missouri, was a second straight cornerback the Lions took in the draft. He allowed 1 touchdown all of last season, was targeted on just 8% of snaps, so he's a true lockdown corner. Could work his way into the starting rotation early this year. Makai Wingo out of LSU in the 6th round has a 40 time of 4.8, which is insane for a defensive lineman. Jalen Reeves-Maven is one of the best special teamers in the league, was given a Pro Bowl invitation for his work on that side of the ball. Michael Badgley was signed about 3/4 of the way through last year after the Lions kept having struggles with 2 other kickers on the roster. He helped them end the season and then did well in the playoffs as well, so he's back on a full-time basis. Jack Fox is one of the best punters in this league. The Lions coaching staff returns intact, which was not at all expected coming into the season. Dan Campbell is in his 4th year. He has completely changed the culture in Detroit. It's now a championship contender under him. Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn both had coaching interviews during the offseason. Johnson was actually offered the Washington Commanders head coaching job, but he decided to reject it and return to the Lions. He told the press that he had, quote, unfinished business in Detroit. So let me stop sharing and share the other one. Okay, and I got to work my way down. Okay, so we're over. So first of all, Pam asked if the Lions are championship contenders. Are they here to stay? And my dad said, yes, they have everything in place for a Super Bowl, and he sees them in the Super Bowl within 3 years. On to me. So my analysis is going to be the same as just about anybody's, I think, in this. The Lions are true contenders. They're true Super Bowl contenders. They're true championship contenders. It's not a one-year wonder for Detroit. The way that they're young, the way that they're built, the way that they're led at head coaching spot, this team is there to stay. It's just about getting over that hump, which could be either the Eagles or the 49ers, really. getting over the hump, whoever that is over there, maybe the Cowboys. But my question was on that idea: are they at risk for losing first place in this division that they worked so hard to gain because of the improvements that the NFC North has made everywhere else in Chicago and in Green Bay? And Cody, you had that question.
Yeah, and I'll just read my answer because that's kind of my analysis as well, which is the Lions have worked hard and efficiently to strengthen their defensive back positions, which was kind of a weak link of theirs. Lions are not only there to win the division again, but also win the NFC. The Lions have a roster everyone should be afraid of and needs to be afraid of. Lions should win the division, and the only team I think that will be tough for them, in my opinion, in the division will be the Packers. And so I mean, there's no reason to repeat what's already being said. They are a favorite, in my opinion, maybe the favorite.
Nancy.
Yeah. So I'll just read into my question, and that'll I'll wrap into my analysis and pass over to Dustin for the answer. What is the missing piece for the Lions? What is one thing or player that you would like to change? The reason I kept it simple is I think that the Lions have a good base. Like Cody, I agree that they should be the ruler in this division, barring injuries or just not playing well. And that's all I really got for the Lions, Dustin.
Yeah, my answer to that is with the Lions, offensive and defensive, and I think probably defensive especially. You know, Hutchinson is great, but they need some extra support to stop the run and get pressure on the quarterback, and so they've done a little bit of work to try to improve that. You know, so they have the pressure on them, but I think just as much pressure is on just the offense to be as efficient as they were last season. It's doing something once is hard. Doing it twice is even harder.
Nice, everyone. Got a lot of clicks to do here. Okay, Green Bay Packers surprised a lot of people last year by going 9-8, making it to the playoffs, destroying the Cowboys in the wild card round before losing the 49ers in the divisional round in a close game. They were 12th in points, 11th in yards, as well as top half of the league in defense. Jordan Love proved that the Packers' philosophy of sitting first-round quarterbacks for at least 3 years pays off. He's following in the same footsteps as his predecessors, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. He threw for over 4,000 yards and 32 touchdowns. Over the last 8 weeks of the season, he had the highest quarterback rating of any player in the NFL. That included Patrick Mahomes. However, Love is in a contract dispute currently with Green Bay. He played last year on a small deal. He decided to push his leverage from his great season, said that he won't practice. He won't do any offseason work until he gets a new deal. Reports are that he wants to become the highest paid quarterback in the league. They have reshuffled their running back room, bringing in Josh Jacobs to replace Aaron Jones. Jacobs led the NFL in rushing 2 years ago. He might be a better all-around player. This team was the youngest team in the NFL a year ago. And they're expected to be the youngest team in the league again. That's seen here with the receivers. Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, they're all young. But you can see that their numbers, 8 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, they were all strong across the board. Luke Musgrave is expected to score more touchdowns this year, though. Jordan Morgan is the Packers' first-round pick out of Arizona. He played 4 out of the 5 offensive line positions in college, but will settle in at left tackle. Elton Jenkins is another versatile piece who will play left guard. Josh Myers is a solid center. Zach Tom looks like one of the better right tackles in the league. Sean Ryan is the one guy that wasn't a starter last year. He'll be looking to take over the starting right guard spot from John Runyon, who left in free agency. Kenny Clark was a Pro Bowler again last year, setting a career high with 7.5 sacks. He is bookended by 2 great pass rushers, Rashawn Gary and Preston Smith, who combined for 17 sacks. Next to Clark inside is the mammoth nose tackle, T.D. Slayton. The Packers ranked 28th against the run last year. So Edgerrin Cooper was brought in with their second-round pick to try to add some thump against the run. He joins Quay Walker, who had a great season. He led the team with 118 tackles. The Packers are not normally very active in free agency, but they made their largest free agent signing of the offseason by signing former Giants safety Xavier McKinney to a huge deal. They continued reshaping their safeties by drafting Javon Bullard out of Georgia in the second round. Jair Alexander had his worst season as a pro last year because of injuries, some poor decisions. But if he's refocused, he's still one of the best in the game. Eric Stokes also had an injury-plagued season, but they're hoping to see the former first-round pick prove his value. Carrington Valentine came out of nowhere as a late-round draft pick last year to be a big contributor as the slot corner. As far as offensive depth, I want to point out running back Marshawn Lloyd out of USC. He averaged 4.4 yards after contact last year, which was top 5 in the country. He joins A.J. Dillon as a three-headed monster running back. The Packers have a lot of young receivers who can make a difference. Tried strengthening their O-line depth with veteran Andre Dillard and 2 rookies, Jacob Monk, who played more than 300 snaps at both guard and center for Duke last year, and Travis Glover out of Georgia State. They also drafted another quarterback, Michael Pratt, from Tulane, who led the Green Wave to a 21-3 record the last 2 seasons. He has a lot of potential. As far as defensive depth, I'd like to focus on the secondary. A lot of changes here with 3 rookies in the back end. Evan Williams from Oregon, Keaton Oladapo from Oregon State, and Kalen King from Penn State. Keyshawn Nixon is an electric kick returner. With the new rules in place, he could be a huge weapon. At linebacker, they have Isaiah McDuffie, who proved to be an important piece last year. Rookie Tyron Hopper from Missouri finished second in the SEC with 16 tackles for loss. Lucas Van Ness and Devontae Wyatt are 2 former high draft picks who could be in on the rotation as well. After last year's rookie Anders Carlson missed that very important field goal in the divisional round against the 49ers, the Packers went for competition. They brought in Greg Joseph from the Vikings, who was expected to win that kicking job. Being a kicker is tough. For several years, we all thought that Matt LaFleur was only as good as Aaron Rodgers. But last year, he really proved that he's a great coach. He took Jordan Love to those same great heights, getting the Packers to the playoffs again. He has turned over his defense, though, hiring Jeff Hafley, who was the head coach at Boston College the last few seasons, to try to get a better defensive team on the field. Okay. So moving to this one. Again, sorry, lots of clicks. Scroll through the Packers here. You can see some of the work that we've done. Yancey, you get to start.
Yeah. So this is a playoff caliber team, I believe. What is the one thing they need to move further into the playoffs or possibly into the Super Bowl? And then for my summary, I think that my question kind of helps to summarize this team. I do have faith in them. I think that they get far. Hearing the Jordan Love thing gives me a little more pause about how I felt their success would go. Hopefully that doesn't continue much longer. They just give him a decent deal and they come to middle ground there. But I do believe that this team gets into the playoffs and does well. Go ahead.
What I said in my answer was, in my opinion, the only thing they're lacking is experience because they are the youngest team in the league. They look like they have good weapons. They have a quarterback. Solid defense. They have most of their guys returning that just need more experience under their belt. And I think if they go that right route and they do everything, I think they could get themselves into the Super Bowl in a couple of years. Cody.
So Jordan Love excelled and surprised a lot of people. My question is he expected to have an even better year? If so, what's the ceiling for the Packers? And my analysis for that, just, obvious that we were, at least to me, I think the majority of people were surprised at how good the Packers did and how good Jordan Love did. So my question was, if it goes well again, what is the best scenario for the Packers here?
And Dad answered that question. He said that defenses have now seen Jordan Love over a full season, so it's going to be a little harder for him to have the same success that he had. He said the main barrier for him is the teammates. He doesn't think that the rest of the team is ready to help them get past the wild card weekend. Dustin.
I thought the diva in this division was going to be in Chicago, so that's unfortunate that Jordan Love is in this contract dispute and throwing some shade at teammates and all of that. And I think that it's going to be a more difficult year for Love because it sounds like he's not putting in the work necessary to improve himself. That he's expecting his great year to somehow roll into this next year, and that's just not how things work. in life or in the NFL. So leading past that question into, other people on the team, my question is, can Josh Jacobs take the running game to a higher level and improve upon Aaron Jones and his impact?
And Pam answered that, said that Josh Jacobs is an upgrade over Aaron Jones, that the Packers didn't go wrong there, that he should have a better season than Aaron Jones. So, yeah. Any last comments, Packers? Okay. Stop share and share again. Oops, did I just share the wrong one? Yep, I did. Sorry. Okay. Minnesota Vikings had a rough season. They finished 7-10, out of the playoffs for the first time in 3 years. The offense finished 22nd in points, 29th in rushing yards. They did finish 5th in passing yards, though. The Vikings made the decision not to resign Kirk Cousins, not to trade for one of the top free agent quarterbacks in the market either. Instead, they're pivoting to a draft pick we'll talk about in a second. They're using Sam Darnold, the former 3rd overall pick, to be that bridge quarterback. Darnold is experienced. He has had good games, but he'll likely not finish the season as the starter. He's here just until the rookie is ready to play and no longer. The Vikings had a bad rushing team last year after letting Dalvin Cook walk in free agency. So now they're correcting that by signing Aaron Jones, who we just talked about, to be the featured back. Justin Jefferson just became the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. He's
Jones
well worth it.
Josh Jacobs.
I'm sorry, what?
Aaron Jones or Josh Jacobs?
I don't know what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking Packers. My bad.
Aaron Jones comes over from the Packers.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Justin Jefferson just became the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. He's well worth it as the unquestioned best receiver in the NFL. Along with him, promising second-year receiver Jordan Addison and Pro Bowler TJ Hawkinson. This is a really established receiving core. However, Hawkinson tore his ACL in November. He'll not be ready to go to start the season. We'll probably start on the PUP list until he's ready to go, probably by sometime in October. And Addison had some offseason issues. He was arrested after a DUI in Los Angeles. So Brandon Powell is a good slot receiver, but his greatest value is going to be returning punts. This offensive line returns all the same players in all the same positions. Brian O'Neill is the best of the bunch at right tackle. Christian Darrisaw is really coming into his own on the left side. He just signed a massive extension. Dalton Reisner left the team in free agency to test the market, found out there wasn't a great market for him, so he came back. While Garrett Bradbury is just okay at center. Ed Ingram is probably the weakest link on this line. There's something to be said of continuity here, but without a real superstar, how good is it really? The Vikings are retooling their entire defensive line with Jerry Tillery, the veteran addition from the Raiders. Harrison Phillips is a good space eater. Jonathan Bullard is being promoted to a starter, but this unit doesn't really inspire a ton of confidence. Losing Danielle Hunter in the offseason definitely hurt, so they spent a lot of money trying to replace their all-pro rusher. Jonathan Grenard had a double-digit sack season in Houston last year, so he's the veteran replacement, while Dallas Turner literally fell into the Vikings' lap in the draft. He was widely viewed as the best edge rusher in the draft. The run on offensive players in the first 14 picks of the draft led to Turner being available at 17. So they traded up to get him. He is the only front seven player to have 40 inches or better on the vertical jump and a 40 time under 4.5 seconds. In short, he's an athletic freak. Blake Cashman also comes over from the Texans to help him at a linebacker, along with Ivan Pace, who was a literal gold mine, fine as an undrafted player last year. He was one of the defensive leaders last year. The back end is problematic outside of mainstay Harrison Smith at safety, who seems like he'll never age. Cameron Bynum led the team in tackles. That's a bad thing for a safety, by the way, but was a liability in coverage. Byron Murphy becomes cornerback 1. Not sure if he's worth that. And Shaquille Griffin, who was a former Pro Bowler in Seattle, is trying to get one more good season before his career is over. J.J. McCarthy became the Vikings franchise quarterback when he was taken with the 10th overall pick. The Vikings were trying desperately to trade up to get Drake May. When that didn't work out, McCarthy was the fallback option. So do they really believe in their new quarterback? We'll see. We'll see how quickly he plays. He did complete 68% of his passes while pressured last season. That's the best mark in college football. He proved that he could be a winner. He won a national championship. C.J. Ham is one of the league's best and last remaining fullbacks. To help while Hawkinson is out with his injury, they signed Robert Tonyan from the Bears, who will rely on him and Josh Oliver at tight end. Walter Rouse was their 6th-round pick. He started over 50 games at left tackle for Oklahoma. And Michael Juergens was taken in the 7th round, who can play center or either guard spot as well. Defensive depth shows more attention up front. Andrew Van Ginkel was a big addition from the Dolphins. He was one of the sack leaders in Miami. He'll rotate with rookie Dallas Turner up front. Levi Drake Rodriguez has a crazy draft story. He started his career at Southwest Assemblies of God University. If you've never heard of that, that's not even D2. So
you sure it wasn't at Abercrombie and Fitch? What is that dude's picture about, bro? You couldn't find one of him in a jersey?
Nope, I couldn't because of where he played. So he finally became an FCS All-American last year at Texas A&M in Commerce. Josh Metellus was excellent at safety last year. He'll be rotated in and out of 5 or 6 DB sets. Mekhi Blackman just tore his ACL in OTAs, so he'll miss this whole season. I have to mention a tragic thing here. 4th-round pick Kyrie Jackson from Oregon had a ton of promise. He was 6'4" coming into the season. He tragically was killed in a car accident earlier this month. So I wanted to keep him on the screen and make sure that we memorialize him the way that he deserves. The Vikings let their veteran kicker Greg Joseph walk in free agency, where he signed with division rival Green Bay. So the Vikings drafted Will Reichard out of Alabama in the 6th round to replace him. Rookie kickers are always coin flips, but Reichard has proven himself for the Crimson Tide. He went 6 of 7 in playoff situations over the last 3 years. Andrew DePaula was an all-pro long snapper last season, for whatever that's worth. All 3 members of the coaching staff return intact. Kevin O'Connell was the coach of the year during his rookie season. Now, after a losing season, he has to show what he can do in that 3rd year. Brian Flores is an excellent defensive coordinator. Wes Phillips has great family ties. His father is Wade Phillips. His grandfather, Bum Phillips. Both were longtime NFL head coaches. Over to this screen. It starts with me. So back at the very first quarterback timeline, I had Sam Darnold at quarterback. That probably surprises a lot of people because most people think J.J. McCarthy is going to be the starter. Again, I'm not sure how much they trusted J.J. McCarthy from the beginning. I think Sam Darnold is going to start until they feel J.J. McCarthy is ready. But what's the right timeline to send a rookie quarterback out to start? Are the Vikings doing J.J. McCarthy a disservice if they throw him out there at any time this season? Or because he's his 10th overall pick, does he earn the chance to prove himself in the first year? That was my question. My analysis real quick is the Vikings are in trouble. I think outside of Justin Jefferson, they have no one that's a top player on this roster. He's going to do a lot of good. He's going to catch a lot of passes, but the Vikings are going to struggle to last place in this division, in my opinion. So, Dustin?
Yeah, to address your question, I will always maintain forever and ever that the best time to send a rookie quarterback out is next year. Never in their rookie season. In an ideal situation, you know, you should have a year to sit and learn and watch, and teams just don't have the patience for that. And so, like you say, McCarthy's going to see the field, you know, maybe by week 5 or something like that, and all of that. And he might be the best choice to start. He has a lot of promise. He hasn't proven himself, whereas Sam Darnold has proven himself to be mediocre. And so he may be the best choice. And you just got to get him out there and see what's going to happen. My analysis on the team is it's going to echo you, Scott, is that they just don't have a lot of pieces that instill a lot of confidence in their ability to win a lot of games. And so, you know, this is a team that'll probably be at the bottom of division. And so they're going to be an interesting one to watch with them trying to win with a mediocre roster.
Yeah. Dad's question to you, Cody, was: is their quarterback situation with a rookie and Sam Darnold an upgrade over Kirk Cousins?
And my answer to that is, whether you want to believe it or not, Kirk Cousins is a great QB. He was never elite, but he was great. So as a rookie quarterback and a QB bust, an upgrade, absolutely not. There's no way in any way or shape or form that would be an upgrade. So basically the analysis with that is repeating what you guys are saying. This is kind of a retool, a rebuild, at least the quarterback, room, if you will. And so I do agree with you, Dustin, that, do what you can this year, but next year I think JJ McCarthy should be more ready, and you'll have a better idea of what you can do to help him for that.
Pam's question to you, Yancey, was there seems to be a decent amount of talent, but have they built well enough around this mediocre quarterback situation to have a good offense?
Yeah, so this Viking offense does have plenty of talent and weapons, but in my opinion, they're missing a leader, so it's not enough for me. On the other side of the ball, on the defense, they're missing a lot. Other than that safety who's been there a while, the strong safety, I think you mentioned him, the guy that doesn't age. I don't see a lot of help there for the Vikings. And other than the wide receiver who played, the young guy who played really well, give me a name real quick, Scott. Sorry.
Addison.
Jefferson.
Addison.
Jefferson.
Oh, Justin Jefferson is who you're talking
about. There we go. Other than him, he's the only superstar on this team that I see, and I can recognize, that might be the dude that you can build around. But without a guy to get him the ball, you see his numbers decline and his greatness becomes harder to achieve if you don't have somebody getting him the ball. So that's kind of my overall assessment. Not enough on defense, and you need the first step of the quarterback being there, and I don't see anybody doing enough from that position to help their weapons flourish.
Yep. Okay, that's the NFC North. So let me go all the way down here. I have to find it first. Sorry, not quite. There we go. Whoops. So all of us picked the Lions to win this division across the board, all 6 of us. The rest is kind of mixed up. Most of us picked the Packers to finish second. My dad and Yancey picked the Vikings to finish second. Most of us had the Bears in third. Dustin and Yancey. Dustin had the Vikings. Yancey had the Packers, and then we're kind of all over the place who's finishing in the cellar. So obviously we're all in agreement that the Lions win this division, but we have some things to settle here. So Yancey, let's start with you. Why do the Vikings finish second?
So I know I just trashed them. I think that the reason my Chicago is down here and Minnesota is up here is we see an inverse of quarterback performance. That guy that I just spent a couple of minutes saying he's not a weapon probably turns out to be a weapon, hopefully, at least to make me look smarter here. And Caleb Williams' ego kind of catches up to him. And I think that's what caused me to flip those teams. Is I think that Caleb Williams is more of a detriment. And maybe before even knowing it, I assumed that Jordan Love was going to implode, and that's why I put the Packers down there. So that's my defense for why I set that league up like that, or that division, is I feel like Jefferson was enough basically on his own to put the Vikings up there, and that's probably not a great pick now that I was looking over what the Bears have on defense, but we'll just see.
Yeah. Dustin, let's go to you. You're the only, other than Yancey, Cody and I both have the same exact order. So, but Dustin, you have the Bears finishing behind the Vikings. So.
Yeah, and it's maybe I know that I'm biased. There's absolutely no issue there. I feel biased, and I expect an implosion from Chicago, which all of my friends that are Bears fans would say, yeah, that's fair. You're probably right. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that could very well happen. I think I'll speak for you, Cody, too, because I think you have the same idea that the Bears just have so many weapons that they're going to win some games, but even with their quarterback situation being what it is.
Yeah, I do want to add a couple of things. First off, to you, Yancey, Justin Jefferson is incredible, but if he can't get the ball, he's not doing anything, and so you got to get him the ball. And so that's, for me, that's an easy reason to put them in fourth place. And then, in my opinion, we all say the Lions are going to finish first, but they're going to finish first by 4 or 5 games. They're going to – it's not going to be a contest.
I remember this underrated white boy from Michigan who played really well for a really long time, and I'll leave it there. Isn't that guy from Michigan?
Sure.
He is. Jay McCarthy. Yeah.
That's a decent system. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Good building blocks.
Yeah.
I could be an idiot, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Sam Darnold is no Drew Bledsoe.
That's true as well. But, okay. Oh, whoops. Let me share my screen. We're moving to the AFC South now, starting with the Houston Texans. Houston Texans surprised a lot of people last year by winning the AFC South with 10 wins, finishing as the most careful team with the ball as well. Just 14 total turnovers last year. That ranked first in the league, top half in both offense and defense. CJ Stroud proved himself to be the best rookie quarterback in the NFL last year from the very beginning. Over 4,000 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions. He was poised, he was careful, he was very, very good, and he was a Pro Bowler. The Texans then went all in to upgrade their weapons this year. Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Dalton Schultz are the 3 guys that were here last year. Collins had a career year, was an all-pro with nearly 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns, while Dell and Schultz combined for 12 more. They then traded for Bills receiver Stephon Diggs, who has the second most receiving yards of any player in the NFL over the last 3 seasons, with 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. They also upgraded at running back, trading for Joe Mixon from the Bengals, who gives them a good between-the-tackles runner, an excellent receiver, and a pass protector. Laramie Tunsil is still the highest-paid offensive tackle in the league, and he proves his worth every season. Titus Howard was hurt a lot of last year, but he does well on the other side. Shaq Mason played every game last year at right guard, but it's the other 2 positions that are a little unsure. Juice Scruggs was hurt for a lot of last year. He looked good as a rookie when he was healthy. Kenyon Green tore his biceps at the beginning of the season. He missed the entire year, but he should retake the left guard spot. Texans also hit big on their other first-round pick last year. Will Anderson led the way with 7 sacks, but they upgraded everyone around him, bringing over Danielle Hunter, who we just talked about from the Vikings. He had 17 sacks last year. He was one of the few all-pro players to lead their previous team. Danico Autry from the Titans and Folorunso Fatukasi from the Jaguars are 2 other additions. Christian Harris had over 100 tackles, while Henry To'o looked great in a starter audition as a rookie. They bring over Aziz Al-Shaair from the Titans as a great coverage linebacker. The one point on this defense that is still unsure of is at cornerback. They have a great one in Derek Stingley, but the position opposite him is wide open. It's likely to go to the Texans' first-round pick, or first draft pick, Kamari Lassiter, the rookie out of Georgia. Jimmy Ward is a great leader, but he gets hurt a lot. Jalen Petre looked great the last 2 years. Damian Pierce was excellent as a rookie, but had a down year last year. He and rookie Jawar Jordan will be the 2 other backs alongside Mixon. Someone not on this presentation is that the Texans just signed Cam Akers to their roster, but he won't be ready to go for at least the first half of the season. He's recovering from a torn ACL. Noah Brown is one of the most underrated receivers in the league. They drafted Cade Stover in the 4th round, who played with Stroud 2 years ago at Ohio State. He gets to return to his college quarterback. Both Ladarius Henderson and Blake Fisher were drafted as well on the offensive line. Fisher in particular is expected to play the swing tackle, meaning he's tackle number 3. He'll take over on either side if injuries occur. Ben Skoranek from the Rams is more of a special teams player than a receiver, but he's a great special teamer. A lot of changes in defensive depth. Let's start with the secondary. Jeff Okudah and C.J. Henderson were both former top 10 picks who were just about to be declared busts. The Texans are trying them as reclamation projects. One of them could win the other starting cornerback role if Lassiter isn't ready. Kalen Bullock is a safety out of USC. He had 9 interceptions over the last 2 seasons, so watch out for him. I want to mention the other draft picks. Jamal Hill out of Oregon in the 6th round has 4.41 speed. Defensive lineman Solomon Byrd out of USC and Marcus Harris out of Auburn were both taken in the 7th round. Both were very disruptive in college. Desmond King, where did he go? Is here. Is a better returner than at cornerback, but he could contribute on both. The Texans like what they have with kicker Kaimi Fairbairn. He missed a total of 2 kicks all of last year. Tommy Townsend is a former All-Pro punter from the Chiefs. He should give the Texans a better field position weapon. John Weeks is the longest tenured player on this roster. He'll probably snap the ball until he's like 70. D'Amico Ryans proved that he's a great coach. That Kyle Shanahan coaching tree is bursting with talent. He took over. He immediately infused the team with the culture to win now. He's a former draft pick, a former player of the Texans. He loves this team. Bobby Slowick was another coach who had a lot of head coaching interviews. So the fact that the Texans get him back for a second season is good news for them. Stop sharing and share this one. Okay. So starting with me again, my question, I mentioned the historic fact that a lot of second-year quarterbacks after a fantastic rookie season suffer sophomore slumps. It's a fact. We see it all the time. Do you think that CJ Stroud is in line for that same kind of slump that some rookies get? Why or why not? Dad answered my question. I'm going to read his because it's part of my analysis as well, that he just seemed too comfortable in that system, so comfortable. He doesn't know if there'll be a huge upgrade, but he doesn't see a reason for him to drop either, especially with the talent they've added on this team. I agree with that. I think the Texans have gone all in. They realized what they had last year, which was a really talented team. Let's build on it. Let's get this team a whole lot of more talent, and let's get this team to be a Super Bowl contender. That's exactly what they've done. I have high hopes for the Texans this year. Yancey.
Yeah, I agree with you overall. I have a pretty short question, and that goes to my overall summary. I think this team has everything that they need in place to have success, but can the O-line keep CJ healthy and protected this year was my overall question, if whoever would like to read the response.
Yeah. And Pam said she didn't anticipate any big struggles, especially considering the success last year. I would just say that they're, because of their new center and new left guard, it could be a little weird, but I like their offensive line too. So, Cody.
Yeah, I'll just read my question to start off with, because that's kind of a little bit of my analysis. So I just pointed out some of the facts that they had last year. So 10-7, AFC South title, divisional round, all within the first year of D'Amico Ryans being the coach. And then they add some other big names. Let me pause there for a second. I said earlier that with the Chicago Bears, I was very impressed with all their offseason additions. The Texans is the only team I'm more impressed with. They did bigger and better. So with that being said, do they have it all now? Are the Texans the team to take down the Chiefs?
Going to the Chiefs fan for the answer.
Yeah. No. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. And it's not because the Texans aren't going to be good, but the whole league is on notice. This is kind of summarizing my answer here, is that the whole league's on notice. They're prepared. The many teams are circling that Texans matchup where they weren't last year. And so the whole league's on notice, and then the AFC is just so strong. It's no fault of the Texans that the AFC is so strong, especially, whether you look at Kansas City, Buffalo, Miami, all these other different teams that are just so strong that it's going to be so hard to get past. And so, short answer, no.
Okay. Okay, moving on. For the Indianapolis Colts, they also surprised a lot of people by finishing above 500, having a chance to win the division, go to the playoffs in that final game of the season. They lost to the Texans. They finished 10th in points, 15th in yards, but were on the opposite end of the spectrum on defense. Anthony Richardson played just 3 games before he was lost for the year, but he showed a lot in those 3 games. He had 3 touchdown passes, just 1 interception. He also rushed for 4 touchdowns. That's promising, even if in a small sample size. His main priority is now to learn to run out of bounds or slide so he can stay on the field, have them evaluate if he's truly a franchise quarterback. Jonathan Taylor is back healthy after a down year of just 741 rushing yards. Remember, he was the NFL's rushing leader 3 years ago. Can he ever return to that level of play? We'll see. Michael Pittman had a career year in terms of catches and yards, but only scored 4 touchdowns. While Josh Downs looks like someone to build on. Jelani Woods is a giant of a human being at tight end who was lost for the year during the offseason last year. He had a spectacular rookie season, so look at it for him to return to form this year. They drafted Adonai Mitchell in the second round. He averaged 15 yards per catch and scored 11 touchdowns for Texas last year, so he's the true deep threat that they've been missing. The offensive line is pretty solid if they can stay healthy. Quentin Nelson is described by many as the nastiest offensive lineman in the league. No one wants to line up against him. Ryan Kelly is very good as well. He's now in his mid-30s. He may not have much left. The Colts reportedly declined to offer him an extension, so he's playing out the final year of his deal this season. Braden Smith is solid at right tackle, but he was lost for the season after 10 games. The other 2 spots are filled by guys who were there last year, Bernard Ryman and Will Fries, but haven't quite proven themselves yet. DeForest Buckner continues to be one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. He had 8 sacks last year. He's joined by Kwity Paye, who is starting to live up to his first-round talent. Speaking of first-round talent, the NFL draft was a weird one this past April. The first 14 picks off the board were all on offense. So the Colts took the first defensive player in the draft at number 15, and Laiatu Latu out of UCLA, who won the Lombardi Award as the nation's best defensive lineman. He led the country with 23.5 sacks the last 2 seasons. Grover Stewart is run-stuffing defensive tackle inside. Zaire Franklin is a great story of perseverance. He was a 7th-round pick in 2018, basically forgotten about in the draft. Last year, he led the NFL in tackles with 179. He's now regarded as a top 5 middle linebacker. E.J. Speed on the weak side also had more than 100 tackles. The Colts very rarely use more than 2 linebackers at any given time, so it's usually these 2 guys and no more. The secondary is a little bit of a mixed bag. Kenny Moore is the most established corner here. 93 tackles, a trio of interceptions. Rodney Thomas is one of the best young safeties in the NFL to go along with veteran safety Julian Blackmon, who probably had the best season of his career last year. The other 2 guys, Jalen Jones and Juju Brents, were both rookies last year, had their ups and downs, still rather unproven. The Colts learned the importance of having a quality backup when they lost Anthony Richardson to injury, and Gardner Minshew proceeded to lead the Colts to the brink of playoff contention and a Pro Bowl invitation. Minshew was gone, but they went out and nabbed Joe Flacco from the Browns, who did the same thing as Minshew did in Cleveland. Flacco proved that even at nearly 40 years old, he still has it. Anthony Gold is an electric returner who had 2 punt return touchdowns, averaged more than 18 yards per punt return in Oregon State last year. The trio at depth at court and tight end is intriguing. Former basketball star Mo Ali Cox and Kylan Granson leading that group, while Alec Pierce and Ashton Dulin should help at receiver. The lack of depth behind Jonathan Taylor is concerning, though. The Colts continued to build their offensive line depth in the draft with Matt Goncalves out of Pitt in the 3rd round, Tanner Bortolini out of Wisconsin in the 4th. The Colts were very quiet in free agency. Only Flacco and Raekwon Davis, the only 2 additions. Davis is humongous. He could play well as the nose tackle. Dayo Odengbo, Taekwon Lewis, and Samson Abukum are 3 very solid edge rushers to complete what could be a very good and very deep defensive line rotation. Jalen Carleys was a college safety at Missouri, but will transition to linebacker in the NFL, while Jalen Simpson proved that he could play in the SEC. He had 4 interceptions there. Micah Abraham is the son of Donnie Abraham, who played in the NFL for 9 years for the Buccaneers, so he has good bloodlines. Lastly, Jonah Laulu is one of the most experienced college players in the draft. He played the first 4 years at Hawaii, the last 2 at Oklahoma. Matt Gay wasn't as automatic this last year as he was the year before. He missed 8 field goals, but was practically perfect in extra points. Rigoberto Sanchez's 48.3 yards per punt was one of the best in the NFL. Shane Steichen really proved a lot to me, at least last year, getting this team to compete every week, finish with a winning record. The whole coaching staff returns intact, ready for another year. So, over to the Colts. Scrolling over to Dustin.
Yeah, so, it's interesting. They had no major additions to the team, and it feels kind of like they're looking at Anthony Richardson, looking at the team, and be like, I don't know if we got a fair shake at what this team can be. Let's just try to run it back. And so my question, kind of tying off that, is with Jonathan Taylor, trying to run it back with him. Can Jonathan Taylor get back to making a significant difference for the team? Or was he simply just the bright flash in the pan a few years ago?
And Yancey.
Yeah, my short answer is no. That was an unfortunate flash. I think that Anthony Richardson is the younger guy that offers more talent here on this team overall. Jonathan Taylor did look good, but it's tough to running back position is a hard position to have improvement on your years because you're taking so much tread off of the tires. So I just think it's a safer bet to say, his performances are probably more likely to decline than incline. And I think that most of the talent sits with the quarterback position here, honestly.
Pam asked if this team can rely on their defense. If things go south for the offense, like Richardson gets injured, can the defense be enough to keep them in games?
My answer to that is I don't think any team can fully rely on the defense in this league. It's become a very offensive game. While defense can get a lot done, they can't be counted on to win games. That's what the offense does, obviously. So this defense is good, but it's not that good. So I think, putting some analysis behind that, although the defense is good, I mean, they're not going to be able to. I think there will be very few games that the defense can keep them in if the offense has gone really south. So I think that the offense needs to be at their top notch in order to actually be in games, let alone win them.
Yeah. And Dad asked how long Anthony Richardson makes it this year before he's injured. And I said it's a good question because he's been injury prone in college. He's been injury prone in the NFL. If he doesn't adjust his playing style in the NFL, he'll never make it through a regular season without being injured. So he has to realize his value on the field. He has to not take those unnecessary hits. He's big. He's 6'4", 240, but you can't take on linebackers like you did in college anymore. And so go out of bounds, go down rather than to take on the linebackers. Joe Flacco is good, but no one wants to see Joe Flacco starting the games this year. Everyone wants to see Anthony Richardson start. And as a team for the Colts, you want to evaluate your quarterback, see how he is throughout the whole season. I think the Colts are going to take a minor step back this year. I think they surprised me, and I think they're better suited for the long term than I thought that they were, but I don't think they're quite up to where they were last year even. Okay. Okay, moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who went from winning the AFC South in a playoff game 2 years ago to finishing tied for second in the division and missing the playoffs last year. They finished 13th in both points and yards per game, but the latter half of the league on defense. Is Trevor Lawrence the true franchise quarterback? 2 years ago, he certainly looked like it. Last year, he struggled. 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions, but the Jags just gave him a huge multi-year extension, so they definitely think he's the guy. Offensive weapons are undergoing a big changeup. Evan Ingram was one of the best tight ends in the NFL last year, 114 catches, 4 touchdowns. He joins Christian Kirk and new additions Gabe Davis from the Bills and first-round draft pick Brian Thomas from the LSU. Thomas had 17 touchdown catches last year, but was really a one-trick pony. Go deep and score touchdowns. Can he do other things like work underneath? Because he'll need to for this offense to work. Travis Etienne had over 1,000 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns, proving that he is a true workhorse running back. This is an offensive line in flux. Brandon Scherf is the best of the bunch at right guard, but he's getting up there in age. He's now in his mid-30s. Anton Harrison started every game in his rookie season at right tackle, but had his rookie struggles. Cam Robinson was the best option they had at left tackle, but he missed the first 6 games due to suspension. Ezra Cleveland started the last 5 games of last season, is expected to start there to start this year. Mitch Morse comes over from the Bills as a definite upgrade at center. Eric Armstead is the biggest free agent addition this season. He gives the Jaguars someone who can really rush the passer from the inside. He uses a 6'7" frame to swat down passes. He'll help free up rushing lanes for the linebackers, other edge rushers. Roy Robertson Harris moves inside as well on passing downs to rush from the interior. Josh Allen finally had his breakout season, 6 years after they drafted him. But I guess it's never too late, right? 17.5 sacks last year was good for third most in the NFL. Trayvon Walker finally looked like the number 1 overall pick a couple of years ago with 10 sacks of his own. Foye Oluwakan is a tackling machine at middle linebacker. Devin Lloyd was excellent in run support, but struggled when placed in coverage. These are 4 good linebackers if all are healthy. Here's almost a brand new back end. Tyson Campbell and Andre Sisco are the 2 good players from last year that they come back. Campbell just signed a huge extension to stay with the team. The Jags drafted Jerrion Jones in the 3rd round out of Florida State. He's the early favorite to be the other starting outside corner. Darnell Savage joins the team from the Packers at free safety, and veteran Ronald Darby joins from the Ravens at slot corner. The Mac Jones tenure didn't last in New England. He comes home to his hometown of Jacksonville to provide a backup quarterback role for his one-time college football rival, Trevor Lawrence. The Jags have a couple of really good backup running backs in Tank Bigsby, rookie Keelan Robinson, and Dearness Johnson. Robinson should be the punt returner as well, while Devin Duvernay will take over the kick return duties. The moves on the offensive line allow Walker Little and Luke Fortner to drop back into depth because they were both overmatched as starters last year. Javon Foster was drafted in the 4th round out of Missouri to potentially replace Cam Robinson at left tackle. The Jaguars like their LSU guys. They took 2 more, Mason Smith and Jordan Jefferson, to go along with Brian Thomas at wide receiver. Miles Cole was the final pick for the Jaguars out of Texas Tech. He's intriguing because he has the longest arms of any player in the draft, 7'3" wingspan. So he can use those to his advantage on the edge. DeAndre Prince out of Ole Miss had 6 interceptions last year. So he was great around the football. Cam Little is the new kicker on this roster, taken in the 6th round. Over his career at Arkansas, he never missed an extra point attempt in his whole career. He went 53 for 64 on field goals, showing as a very reliable kicker. Ross Matishik was an all-pro long snapper as well. Doug Peterson had a great first season in Jacksonville. He followed by a mediocre one last year. He has won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, so he can coach. But what will he do in his 3rd season for the Jaguars? He changes out defensive coordinators, hiring Ryan Nielsen away from the Falcons, while Press Taylor is the brother of Bengals head coach Zach Taylor. Over to the Word doc. Starting with, so we had Dad asked, will Mac Jones play? Will Lawrence be given a short leash? And Pam said no. We already know what to expect from Lawrence. That's good enough for them. And they just signed him to a big deal anyway. So, Dustin.
Yeah. So this is a team that I've always enjoyed watching. Trevor Lawrence had a rough first season as expected, but he's been a great quarterback since. Last season was rough, but in order to try to help, they've had a lot of turnover in their receiving core, trying to build out that offense a little bit. Overall, I'm happy with it. Want to get your thoughts on it, Cody, specifically. Do you think this is net positive or negative?
And I think it's definitely positive. I do agree that there's been a lot of turnover with it, but as of right now, they have some good talent, some good stability there. In my answer, I said, they're getting some veterans like Gabe Davis and Devin Duvernay, and then obviously in the draft they got one of the hottest college football wide receivers in college football from last year. So, and that's Brian Thomas. And so it's looking really promising, the receiving core. So my last statement in my answer was that this division should be preparing for battle now. And I guess what I mean really is between the Jaguars and the Texans.
Yeah, in my opinion, it comes down to the Texans and the Jaguars, right? Fighting punch for punch. But at times, Trevor Lawrence looks like a franchise quarterback, like he did in that playoff game 2 years ago against the Chargers. He looked great. Other times, he looks like a scrub. So what do? Do you ride him? You build around him? You tear it all down? That was my question. Again, I think the Jaguars are second place in this division, but it's probably going to be a distant second place.
I'm biased as a Colts fan and a Broncos fan for this division, the Colts. But I did say that I'd give him 2 more years, see if we can pull out the potential. But I agree that he lacks consistency in a quarterback. You want a guy that you can depend on. And I don't really see that with Lawrence. He has all the physical tools. If he would, I guess if I could see better decision making out of Lawrence and that continued to progress, I would like him more as a quarterback, but I think physically he's gifted and they should have plenty of success based around him, but we haven't seen that as much as I would like to. And I hope they fall to the bottom of the division because they always beat the Colts when we didn't need them to.
All right. Last team for tonight, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are going through a lot of change. They were just 27th in points, 28th in yards, as well as forcing only 14 turnovers all of last year, second worst in the NFL. Ryan Tannehill started last season at quarterback. He threw 3 touchdowns in 7 games before they inserted Will Levis to see what they had in the rookie. He threw 4 touchdowns in his first game. So they kept with him the rest of the year, but he threw only 4 touchdowns the rest of the season. So he had his rookie struggles, but he looked promising at times as well. A lot of change here, beginning with the absence of King Derrick Henry, who mutually parted ways with the Titans. They went after Tony Pollard, who was a good back, but struggled as the number 1 back in Dallas. So this will be a committee approach with last year's rookie Tyjae Spears. So, DeAndre Hopkins proved he still has some gas in the tank with another 1,000-yard season. The Titans got Calvin Ridley to leave Jacksonville to come over and be the wide receiver 2 next to Nuke. Chigo Okonkwo is the best option they have at tight end. The Titans O-line was a disaster last year, so they're making some changes starting at the top. We'll talk about new head coach Brian Callahan in a second, but he brought his dad along, Bill Callahan, who is one of the most respected offensive line coaches in the league. He should help this unit along. They signed Lloyd Cushenberry away from the Broncos with a huge deal, drafted J.C. Latham with their first-round pick to be their new left tackle. He played right tackle at Alabama, though, so there was a bit of a learning curve for him. When you're that big, you can learn pretty easily how to set the edge. Nicholas Pettit-Frere struggled in his last 2 seasons, so this is his last chance at right tackle. Peter Skoronski fit in well at left guard. Daniel Brunskill is the incumbent at right guard. Jeffrey Simmons might be the best player on this team, even though his stats last year don't really show it. He can wreak havoc when he moves inside to rush on passing downs. Tavondre Sweat is an enormous person. He was drafted out of Texas to be the nose tackle to help on rundowns. Harold Landry returned to form after missing 2022 with an injury. He got double-digit sacks last year. Arden Key is a nice rotational piece as well. They're changing up their whole middle linebacker group by signing Kenneth Murray from the Chargers to try to unlock his potential and drafting Cedric Gray from North Carolina in the 4th round. There is a lot of change at defensive back for the Titans, where they traded for L'Jarius Sneed to be their number 1 corner. Sneed had a good season, but an absolutely spectacular postseason. He shut down every wide receiver he played in the playoffs. Chidobe Awuzie also comes over from the Bengals. He's a good player if he can stay healthy. Jamal Adams also joins the team from the Seahawks. He has been an all-pro in his career, but he struggled to stay healthy and be productive in the last couple of seasons. The other 2 guys, corner Roger McCreary and safety Amani Hooker, really are just bodies on the field, trying to get better. The Titans upgraded their backup quarterback by signing Mason Rudolph, who became the Steelers starter in the last few weeks of the season in the playoff game. They also convinced Tyler Boyd to come over with his former Bengals offensive coordinator, Brian Callahan, to give them a good trio of receivers. Jaquan Jackson is a very speedy receiver who will be in the mix at returner. Traylon Burks is a frustrating player for Titans fans. He was supposed to be the second coming of A.J. Brown, but he hasn't even showed up for the first time yet. Jared Christian and Sadiq Charles are veterans with starting experience on the offensive line in case they need that help. Sebastian Joseph Day is a good defensive tackle with starting experience. They drafted 2 other linebackers, and James Williams, who played safety at Miami, and Jalen Harrell, who played defensive end at Michigan. Both will play linebacker for the Titans. Their secondary depth is questionable at best, with no one standing out to you. Caleb Farley is a former first-round pick who hasn't played more than 4 games in a season yet due to injury. This is his last chance to be on a roster. Elijah Molden was a starter last year who was being pushed to the bench with the addition of Jamal Adams. Jarvis Brownlee was taken out of Louisville in the 5th round, who is another option. As tough as it is to say, the special teams are the best unit on this team, and it's not even close. Nick Folk missed just 1 field goal all of last year. He solidified a position they've needed for years. Ryan Stonehouse's 53.1 yards per punt was second best in the NFL last year, while Morgan Cox is a former all-pro long snapper who never screws up. So if they could only get their offense and defense to play to the level of their special teams, I also want to point out that this is the only team in the NFL to not have a single returning All-Pro or Pro Bowl player on their roster. A brand new coaching staff is here in Tennessee. Brian Callahan being hired away from the Bengals. He was the offensive coordinator there for the last 5 years. He's the son of a coaching legend on the offensive line, Bill Callahan. He once was a head coach for the Raiders. He took them to a Super Bowl. Nick Holtz is the new offensive coordinator for the Jaguars. Denard Wilson is the new defensive coordinator for the Ravens. So he is building a brand new offense here, or new staff here, sorry. Okay, on to the document. Have to find the Titans. We're starting with Yancey.
Yeah, so do the Titans have the talent to get out of the bottom of this division this year? Just as my summary, I think I agree with your dad's answer before. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I do think that we're going to see the Titans struggling this year, where we expect to see the Colts usually in the bottom here or the Jags. I think that the Titans end up sitting right there in that bottom spot in the division, and I hope that my chart reflected that later.
Yeah, my dad said, in short, no. Easy answer. Cody.
Yeah, so the purpose of my question was more just kind of analyzing what could the potential be of this team. There's a lot of good talent on offense, such as you just said, Yancey. So my question is, what should be expected of this offense in the first year of the quote unquote new Titans? Because it definitely looks a lot different. And I pointed out that they have an offensive-minded QB fixer, if you will, a head coach, a great amount of talent: Ridley, Pollard, Boyd, Hopkins, and Levis, which is more potential. But the question is that enough to be as far as in competition for the division?
And my answer was, again, a short answer, no. The Titans are rebuilding from the ground up. Very bottom. It's going to take them the better part of this full season to even gel, to figure out who they are under Brian Callahan's direction, especially with a young quarterback still figuring out his own kinks. So another problem you didn't mention was on defense. They're young, they're inexperienced there. So they're going to struggle on both sides of the ball. I think they do have talent, but they may be set up for success in 2 or 3 years. But in my opinion, this is a team that's going to be in contention for the number 1 pick next year. Pam asked, the Titans have two backup quarterbacks on their roster, in Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. So is it assumed that Levis will be the starter because Mason Rudolph was a starter for a playoff team last year? If so, is he capable of leading an offense? Dustin.
Yeah, my simple answer is, the pressure's on for Levis, and I like that the Titans are deciding to start him, to say, hey, he's unproven. Let's see where we can go. But it's going to be a difficult situation because you have someone with real experience, ready to jump in, ready, that knows how to lead a 2-minute drill. So the pressure's on for him. And hopefully the pressure works to his favor. I put in my answer that it turns him into a diamond and not to ash. But that remains to be seen. Final analysis on the team is, it looks like a team trying really hard to avoid a rebuild, and they brought in a lot of good talent. But I like you said, I think it's only going to accelerate the rebuild into next year.
All right, let's see how we picked. Pressure, or the suspense, is terrible. Okay, well, we have 3 teams here in that we're picking in number 1. Most of us have the Texans finishing there. Yancey picked the Colts. Dustin picked the Jaguars. Let's start with you this time, Dustin. Why do the Jaguars supplant the Texans at number 1 in this division?
I have more faith in the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence having more experience in there. I think that they had a rough year, but they're going to be able to get back into top form. And with the Texans, just because I don't have them win the division, I think they're going to be a good team. But instead of going 10-7, it's going to be 8-9, 9-8, something like that. That, you got to remember, the AFC is super strong. And just like I said, every team is circling the Texans, and it's going to be a harder year for them to repeat the success that they had. And so it won't be that they have a bad season. It's just that they're not going to be the top team in the division.
Yeah. Every single one of us had the Colts in third place, except Yancey, who had them in number 1. Is that bias, Yancey, or do you have analysis here, or is it both?
Hey, look, loyalty does not directly go to IQ, and that is purely why I chose the Colts to win. I bleed blue, baby. I can't help it. Colts and Broncos, I root for both of them. I've always liked the Colts ever since I was growing up, so if you asked my rational mind, are the Colts going to be number 1? No, I'm not going to intellectually be dishonest and say that I think they're the best team in that division. But my heart wants them to be. So I put the Texans right under them for fairness. But that's purely out of loyalty, not out of what I know from football to be true.
That's fair. For many years, I wanted to put the 49ers at number 1 in their division when they were clearly 3 or 4. Now I have the luxury of, and so does Dustin. We both have the luxury of being loyal to a good team that is very good. So, yeah.
It's look at over the Seattle fan over there making faces like it's Halloween, or he's talking to a baby.
Yeah.
So
we've all had our time. We've all had our time with our different.
That's true.
It's
just we're on the same team, Cody. My team sucks too. I want them to win, bro.
It just happens to be that my time is lasting longer and is stronger and better than any of y'all's times ever have been or ever will be ever again.
Shut up before I make a Patriots fan, my friend.
Is that right? 49ers have won 5 Super Bowls. So.
They were probably at 3 in the last 5 years? Like that?
Yeah.
I think it'd be illegal to have a peeing contest on YouTube, just so we're clear.
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, all of us except Yancey had in one way or another Texans Jaguars 1-2, and that's probably what most people around the world are predicting as well. The rest, I mean, all of us had the Titans in last place, so we're all in consensus on that the Titans are in last place in this division. Any last thoughts about the AFC South? Okay.
We covered it.
Well, the timing went a lot better than it went just as well as I hoped. That got us around 8:15-ish with these two. So next week we're looking at the NFC East and the AFC West. So next week we will cover your team, Dustin. Before we this can be recorded too. I'm just wondering, did this format work for everyone? Do we like this format? Any additions or anything like that?
My feedback on it is it felt a little like the 3 of us, not you, Scott, were kind of guests on your show a little bit, and that you wrote this preview. It's we were involved in the question and answers, but I'm wondering if there's a way that that the 3 of us can be a little more involved in the team introductions and analysis of the team as they introduce that, just so we have a little bit of a different voice. No serious problems there.
I like that feedback. I thought about that as I was doing it as well, which is why I brought it up right now. So
I think I agree, and if I can offer maybe an idea for a solution, we just boop, boop, boop. The way that we switch when we answer stuff, we just go in that alphabetical rotation or whatever we want to do best per team, and each one of us takes the lead on that team and then set back on the questions and then go because then it keeps a natural flow of each one of us reading. Because I do agree, I was getting kind of stale here, just sitting trying to think of what I was going to say next, and I don't want to feel like I'm not lending, each person their due attention or whatever. But I do feel like I was kind of sitting waiting for my turn, like, you know what I mean?
I get that. I as I was presenting, it felt like I was going long. So yeah, I like that idea. What do you guys think? That we have four of us. We rotate through introducing. I can still present the slides, but but someone can talk.
I think
So,
that's a good plan, and I do want to nod to your work on the presentation. Like you did do all of this. I don't want it to seem like you didn't do that. You did put in all the effort for it. I think just to keep us all involved is what I'm
Yeah.
speaking to, not anything to the credit of the work that you put in, which was quite a lot.
Yeah.
while I agree with Dustin and Nancy, my only backlash, I guess you could say, or fight back or whatever, is none of us are going to have the knowledge or the intense or the extensiveness as you do for each team. And so unless we have your notes to do it while we're doing it, there's no way it's going to be as long as or as extensive and detailed as it is from you, which can be a step down for us and for listeners. So that's my only pushback.
How I'll address that is I can jump in if there's something that I need to call out. But other than that, I'll provide that sort of analysis in my analysis. How about that?
Okay.
I think that's a fair point because everything that, other than Scott's ability to speed read, you know what I mean? I think all of us, the information is there if we can read it fast enough. Now, there's going to be some names that I'm going to absolutely slaughter and need your help on, for sure, like guaranteed. But I think that would keep us all involved into it. And I think Dustin, that's a great critique, and I think that overall it still is a good format and it's very informative.
Yeah. Okay.
Good.
So I can provide my notes to you guys if you want to look at them before the next thing. They are extensive. I get very excited about NFL preview, and so I write a bunch of stuff. And so that, yeah.
All to your credit.
But I didn't need to word vomit on the screen. So yeah. I like that. This is our podcast. It is not my NFL preview that you three are commenting on. I do like that critique. So we'll adjust for next week and see if it's a better show from the 4 of us, 5 of us, however many, 4 of us.
It's like, are you adding one of my schizophrenic voices to your to the show? I know I can count at least to 4, bro.
It's me. I was counting the 4 of us, and then I said, and me, right? So, yeah. Okay, so talk to you offline and next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.